The story of the British monarchy begins deep in the mists of time. After the Romans left Britain in the early 5th century, new settlers arrived. These were Angles, Saxons, and Jutes from mainland Europe. They established several small kingdoms across the land. This period is often called the Heptarchy, referring to 7 principal kingdoms. These kingdoms, such as Wessex, Mercia, and Northumbria, frequently fought each other for dominance. The idea of a single king for all of England was yet to emerge. Instead, regional loyalties were strong, and power was fragmented among these warrior kings who led their people in battle and made local laws. These early kings were primarily warlords. Their authority depended on their military success and their ability to reward their followers. They claimed descent from heroic figures, sometimes even pagan gods, to bolster their legitimacy. Law was often based on custom and tradition passed down through generations. Assemblies of leading men, known as the Witan, advised these kings. However, the king's word was usually final, especially if he was strong and successful. The concept of hereditary succession was developing, but it was not always straightforward. A strong contender, even if not the direct heir, could seize the throne through force or political maneuvering. The arrival of Christianity, starting with St. Augustine's mission in 597 AD, began to change the nature of kingship. The Church introduced new ideas about divine authority and the responsibilities of a ruler. Kings were now seen as God's representatives on earth. This added a new layer of legitimacy to their rule. Monasteries became centers of learning and administration, providing literate clerks who could help run the kingdoms. The Church also encouraged peace and unity, which sometimes conflicted with the ambitions of warring kings. This created a dynamic relationship between royal power and ecclesiastical influence from very early on. One of the most famous figures from this early period is Alfred the Great, King of Wessex. He ruled from 871 to 899 AD. Alfred is celebrated for his successful defense against Viking invaders. He also promoted learning and literacy, translating important texts into Old English. Alfred envisioned a more unified English identity, laying some groundwork for the later Kingdom of England. He reorganized his army and built fortified towns called burhs to protect his people. His efforts were crucial in preserving Anglo-Saxon culture and creating a sense of common purpose against external threats, a vital step towards a unified monarchy. Following Alfred's important work, his successors continued the task of unification. His son, Edward the Elder, and his grandson, Athelstan, expanded the influence of Wessex. Athelstan is often considered the first true king of England. He achieved significant military victories, notably at the Battle of Brunanburh in 937 AD. This battle saw him defeat a coalition of Scots, Vikings, and Welsh. Athelstan's reign marked a high point for Anglo-Saxon kingship. He created a more centralized administration and issued laws for the whole kingdom. His coinage proclaimed him Rex Totius Britanniae, King of all Britain, showing his ambition. Later, Anglo-Saxon kings like Edgar the Peaceful, who reigned from 959 to 975 AD, consolidated these gains. Edgar's coronation at Bath in 973 AD was a particularly grand affair. It was designed to symbolize the unity of England and the king's imperial status. This ceremony, orchestrated by Archbishop Dunstan, set precedents for future coronations. Edgar maintained peace throughout his reign, which allowed for cultural and monastic reforms to flourish. However, the period after Edgar was less stable. Renewed Viking raids put immense pressure on the kingdom. The reign of Athelred the Unready is often remembered for his struggles and the payment of Danegeld to the Vikings. The early 11th century saw England become part of a North Sea empire under Knut the Great. Knut was a Danish prince who conquered England in 1016. Despite being a conqueror, Knut ruled as an English king. He respected English laws and customs. He even married Emma of Normandy, Ethelred's widow. Knut brought a period of stability and linked England more closely with Scandinavia. His reign showed that the English crown could be held by those from outside the traditional West Saxon line. He divided England into large earldoms, which concentrated power in the hands of a few great nobles, a system that had its own challenges. The final Anglo-Saxon king before the Norman conquest was Edward the Confessor. He reigned from 1042 to 1066. Edward was known for his piety, hence the name Confessor. He spent much of his early life in exile in Normandy. This Norman influence was apparent during his reign. He began the construction of Westminster Abbey, a grand new church in the Norman Romanesque style. Edward died childless in January 1066. His death created a succession crisis. Harold Godwinson, a powerful English earl, was chosen as king by the Witan. However, William, Duke of Normandy, also claimed the throne, setting the stage for a monumental conflict. The Norman conquest of 1066 was a pivotal event. It dramatically reshaped the English monarchy and society. William, Duke of Normandy, defeated King Harold Godwinson at the Battle of Hastings. William, now known as William the Conqueror, was crowned King of England on Christmas Day, 1066. This ended Anglo-Saxon rule. A new Norman aristocracy replaced the Old English nobility. French became the language of the court and government. The monarchy became much stronger and more centralized under William and his successors. He brought with him the feudal system, which tied land ownership to military service. William the Conqueror asserted his authority with great determination. He suppressed English rebellions ruthlessly. To understand and tax his new kingdom effectively, he commissioned the Domesday Book in 1086. This was an unprecedented survey of England's land and resources. It provided a detailed record for the royal administration. William also built many castles, including the Tower of London, to secure his control. These stone fortresses were symbols of Norman power. The relationship between the crown and the church also changed, with William appointing Norman bishops and abbots, strengthening royal influence over religious affairs. Centuries later, another defining moment occurred, the signing of Magna Carta in 1215. King John, who reigned from 1199 to 1216, was an unpopular king. He lost significant territories in France. He also imposed heavy taxes to fund his wars. This led to a rebellion by his barons. At Runnymede, they forced King John to agree to Magna Carta, the Great Charter. This document established for the first time that the king was not above the law. It set out certain rights for subjects, particularly the barons. Though initially annulled by the Pope, Magna Carta was reissued several times by later kings and became a powerful symbol of liberty. The principles enshrined in Magna Carta had a lasting impact. They laid the groundwork for the development of Parliament. Future monarchs would often be reminded of its clauses when they overstepped their authority. The idea that even the king must obey the law was revolutionary. It marked a significant shift in the balance of power between the monarch and the nobles. While not a democratic document in the modern sense, Magna Carta was a crucial step towards constitutional monarchy. It demonstrated that royal power could be limited by written agreement, a concept that would echo through subsequent centuries of British history and beyond. During the medieval period, the English monarchy continued to evolve. The Plantagenet dynasty, which began with Henry II in 1154, ruled for over 3 centuries. These kings were powerful figures. They often clashed with the nobility and the church over the extent of their authority. Henry II, for example, reformed the legal system, establishing common law. However, his conflict with Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, ended tragically with Becket's murder. This event sent shockwaves through Christendom and highlighted the tensions between royal and ecclesiastical power. The king's personal character and military prowess greatly influenced his reign. The medieval monarch was at the apex of the feudal system. The king granted land to his tenants-in-chief, the barons, in return for military service and loyalty. These barons, in turn, granted land to knights. This hierarchical structure was designed to maintain order and provide an army for the king. However, powerful nobles could also challenge royal authority, leading to periods of civil strife like the Barons' Wars in the 13th century. The king relied on his household and a growing body of officials to administer the kingdom, collect taxes, and dispense justice. Royal power was visible in grand building projects such as castles and cathedrals. English kings also pursued ambitions abroad. The Crusades saw monarchs like Richard I, the Lionheart, leave England for long periods to fight in the Holy Land. Richard spent very little of his reign in England, but his crusading image became legendary. The 100 Years' War, a series of conflicts with France from 1337 to 1453, dominated much of the later medieval period. Kings like Edward III and Henry V achieved famous victories such as Crécy, Poitiers, and Agincourt. These wars fostered a sense of English national identity. However, they also placed enormous financial strain on the kingdom, often leading to discontent and calls for reform. The late medieval period was marked by dynastic instability, culminating in the Wars of the Roses from 1455 to 1487. This was a bitter struggle for the throne between two branches of the Plantagenet family, the House of Lancaster and the House of York. The crown changed hands multiple times through battle and intrigue. Kings like Henry VI were seen as weak, while figures like Richard III became controversial. The wars finally ended when Henry Tudor defeated Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485. Henry became King Henry VII, founding the Tudor dynasty and ushering in a new era for the monarchy. Section 5, Dynastic Drama, Tudors and Stuarts, take the stage. The Tudor dynasty, beginning with Henry VII in 1485, brought a new style of monarchy. Henry VII was a shrewd and cautious ruler. He focused on restoring stability and royal finances after the Wars of the Roses. He strengthened the central government and curbed the power of unruly nobles. His marriage to Elizabeth of York united the warring houses of Lancaster and York. This helped to secure his dynasty. Henry VII's reign laid the foundations for the more flamboyant rule of his son Henry VIII. He left a full treasury and a kingdom at peace, a significant achievement after decades of civil war. Henry VIII is one of England's most famous, or perhaps infamous, monarchs. He reigned from 1509 to 1547. His desire for a male heir led him to break with the Roman Catholic Church. This event, known as the English Reformation, had profound consequences. Henry declared himself supreme head of the Church of England. He dissolved the monasteries, seizing their immense wealth. Henry married 6 times, executing 2 of his wives. His reign was marked by bold assertions of royal power and significant religious and social upheaval. He was a larger-than-life figure who transformed the religious landscape of England forever. After Henry VIII, his 3 children ruled in succession. Edward VI, a devout Protestant, furthered the Reformation. Mary I, his Catholic half-sister, attempted to restore Catholicism, leading to the persecution of Protestants. Then came Elizabeth I, who reigned from 1558 to 1603. Elizabeth's long reign is often called a golden age. She established a moderate Protestant settlement for the Church of England. She navigated complex foreign policy, famously defeating the Spanish Armada in 1588. Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, never married, skillfully using her unmarried status in diplomatic negotiations. Her reign saw a flourishing of arts and culture, including the works of Shakespeare. Upon Elizabeth I's death, without an heir, the English crown passed to her cousin, James VI of Scotland. He became James I of England in 1603, uniting the crowns of England and Scotland. This marked the beginning of the Stuart dynasty. James I was a firm believer in the divine right of kings. This doctrine held that monarchs derived their authority directly from God and were not accountable to earthly powers. This belief system would increasingly bring the Stuart kings into conflict with Parliament. James's reign also saw the publication of the King James Bible, a lasting literary and religious legacy. Section 6, Revolution and Reordering, the Turbulent 17th Century. The 17th century was a period of immense upheaval for the British monarchy. James I's son, Charles I, inherited the throne in 1625. Like his father, Charles believed strongly in the divine right of kings. He clashed repeatedly with Parliament over issues of finance and religious policy. Charles attempted to rule without Parliament for 11 years, from 1629 to 1640, a period known as the Personal Rule. His attempts to impose religious uniformity, particularly in Scotland, sparked rebellion. These tensions eventually escalated into the English Civil War, a devastating conflict that pitted royalists, also known as Cavaliers, against parliamentarians or Roundheads. The English Civil War, which lasted from 1642 to 1651, had a profound impact on the monarchy. The parliamentarian forces, led by Oliver Cromwell and his new model army, ultimately defeated the royalists. King Charles I was captured, tried for treason, and executed in January 1649. This was a shocking event. It was the first time a reigning monarch had been publicly tried and executed by his own people. England was declared a republic known as the Commonwealth. Oliver Cromwell eventually became Lord Protector, ruling with military authority. The monarchy itself was abolished, a radical departure from centuries of tradition. The Republican experiment, however, proved short-lived. After Cromwell's death in 1658, his son Richard was unable to maintain control. There was a growing desire for stability and a return to the traditional form of government. In 1660, the monarchy was restored with Charles II, son of the executed Charles I. This period is known as the Restoration. Charles II was a more pragmatic ruler than his father. He navigated the political landscape with greater skill, though tensions with Parliament remained. His reign was marked by cultural vibrancy, but also by political intrigue and religious anxieties, particularly over his suspected Catholic sympathies. The religious and political issues did not disappear. Charles II's brother, James II, succeeded him in 1685. James II was openly Catholic. His attempts to promote Catholicism and rule arbitrarily alarmed many in Protestant England. This led to the Glorious Revolution of 1688. Leading figures invited William of Orange, a Dutch Protestant prince married to James II's daughter Mary, to invade. James II fled to France. William and Mary were crowned joint monarchs in 1689. This event established parliamentary supremacy. The Bill of Rights, passed in 1689, limited royal power and affirmed the rights of Parliament, fundamentally reshaping the monarchy into a constitutional one. Section 7. An empire's emblem, the Victorian Era and Beyond. After the tumult of the 17th century, the 18th century saw the Hanoverian dynasty ascend the throne in 1714. This followed the death of Queen Anne, the last Stuart monarch, without a direct Protestant heir. George I, the Elector of Hanover, was a German prince who spoke little English. This linguistic barrier and his focus on Hanoverian affairs contributed to the growing power of Parliament and the office of Prime Minister. Figures like Robert Walpole became dominant political leaders. The monarchy began to take on a more symbolic role, though the kings like George III still sought to exercise considerable political influence. George III's long reign from 1760 to 1820 saw the American Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars. The 19th century was dominated by the reign of Queen Victoria. She ascended the throne in 1837 and ruled until 1901. Her reign, the Victorian era, coincided with Britain's rise as a global industrial power and the expansion of the British Empire. Victoria became an icon of stability, morality, and empire. Her marriage to Prince Albert was a loving partnership. Albert played a significant role in promoting arts, science, and industry, exemplified by the Great Exhibition of 1851. After Albert's early death, Victoria withdrew into a long period of mourning. However, she remained a powerful symbol for her people, embodying the nation's identity. During Victoria's reign, the monarchy's political power continued to diminish. The franchise expanded through various reform acts, making Parliament more representative. The monarch's role shifted increasingly towards being a figurehead, a symbol of national unity and continuity. Victoria herself embraced this evolving role. She understood the importance of public image and duty. Her golden and diamond jubilees were celebrated with great enthusiasm across the empire. These events highlighted the affection and respect many held for her. The monarchy became closely associated with the vast British Empire, with Victoria proclaimed Empress of India in 1876. The early 20th century brought further transformations. Victoria's son, Edward VII, enjoyed a brief but popular reign from 1901 to 1910, known for its elegance. His son, George V, navigated the challenges of World War I. During the war, anti-German sentiment led him to change the family name from Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to Windsor in 1917. This was a significant symbolic act. George V also played a key role during periods of political crisis, demonstrating the monarch's continuing, albeit subtle, constitutional importance. The interwar years saw the rise of new ideologies and social changes, and the monarchy had to adapt to this changing world. Section 8. The Evolving Crown Monarchy in the Modern Age. The 20th century presented new challenges for the British monarchy. One of the most significant crises was the abdication of Edward VIII in 1936. Edward wished to marry Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee. This was deemed unacceptable by the government and the church. Faced with a constitutional crisis, Edward chose to abdicate in favor of his younger brother, who became King George VI. George VI, initially reluctant, rose to the occasion. He, along with his wife, Queen Elizabeth, became symbols of national resilience during World War II. Their decision to remain in London during the Blitz earned them widespread admiration. Queen Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952, following the death of her father, George VI. Her reign became the longest in British history. It spanned a period of immense social, technological and political change. The British Empire transformed into the Commonwealth of Nations. Britain's role in the world shifted. Throughout these changes, Queen Elizabeth II provided a sense of continuity and stability. She dedicated her life to public service, undertaking countless engagements and tours. Her Christmas broadcasts became a cherished tradition. She adapted to the changing times while upholding the traditions of the monarchy. The monarchy in the modern age has increasingly focused on its ceremonial and representational duties. The monarch acts as head of state, a symbol of national unity above party politics. Royal events, such as weddings, jubilees, and the state opening of Parliament, attract global attention. These occasions provide moments of national celebration and reflection. The royal family also undertakes extensive charitable work supporting numerous causes. However, the monarchy has also faced scrutiny and criticism, particularly regarding its finances, relevance, and the personal lives of its members. The media landscape has become far more intrusive than in previous eras. The transition to King Charles III in 2022, following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, marked a new chapter. The modern monarchy continues to navigate its place in a diverse and evolving society. Public opinion on the institution remains varied. Debates about its future role and cost persist, yet it retains a significant presence in British life. The challenge for the contemporary monarchy is to remain relevant and respected. It must balance tradition with the expectations of a 21st century nation. Its ability to adapt, as it has done throughout history, will be key to its survival and continued influence. Section 9, A Lasting Legacy, the Monarchy's Cultural Imprint. The British monarchy has left an indelible mark on British culture. Its influence is woven into the fabric of national identity. For centuries, the monarch has been a central symbol of the nation. This symbolism is evident in countless ways. It appears on currency, stamps, and official documents. Royal palaces and castles such as Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, and the Tower of London are iconic landmarks. They attract millions of tourists each year. These sites are not just historic buildings, they are tangible links to the long story of Britain's kings and queens, evoking a deep sense of history. The monarchy has also profoundly influenced British arts and literature. From Shakespeare's history plays, which dramatized the lives of medieval kings, to modern films and television series like The Crown, royalty has been a constant source of inspiration. Royal patronage has supported artists, musicians, and architects throughout history. This has contributed to a rich cultural heritage. The language itself is peppered with expressions and titles related to royalty. The King's English, or Queen's English, signifies a standard form of the language. Royal ceremonies and pageantry, with their elaborate costumes and ancient rituals, are unique cultural spectacles. Politically, while the monarch's direct power has waned, the crown remains a cornerstone of the British Constitution. The phrase "God Save the King" or Queen is the national anthem. Parliament operates in the monarch's name. The monarch appoints the Prime Minister and formally opens parliamentary sessions. This continuity provides a framework of stability. The monarch also serves as head of the Commonwealth, a voluntary association of 56 independent countries. This role gives Britain a unique platform on the global stage. The monarchy, therefore, continues to play a subtle but important role in Britain's international relations and soft power. Looking back, the journey of the British monarchy is one of extraordinary endurance and adaptation. From early warlords to modern constitutional figureheads, monarchs have shaped and been shaped by the nation's history. The institution has weathered invasions, rebellions, revolutions, and profound social change. Its ability to evolve, to redefine its role in response to changing circumstances has been crucial to its survival. Whether as a symbol of unity, a focus for national celebration, or a reminder of a long and complex past, the British monarchy continues to hold a distinctive place in the national consciousness and the world's imagination.